Moving into our next story of the day. Oh boy, the shellacking continues, folks. The destruction continues from the Republicans going towards the progressive left regarding immigration. You got the greatest governor of all time, in my opinion, Governor Ron DeSantis, just putting a shellacking on Martha's Vineyard for deporting these illegal immigrants faster than they could freaking say illegal immigrant themselves. Because boy, oh boy, the hypocrisy is outrageous from the progressive left. I mean, that's basically what our show is about, right? Spotting out the hypocrisy, the blatant lying from the White House, the Democrat Party, and the progressive left. And it's astonishing how, they're complaining about these Republicans sending and busing these migrants all over without giving them notice. I mean, that was one of the main arguments of like, they didn't tell us that they were coming. But yet Joe Biden's flying illegal immigrants under the dark of the night to all these other places without notice as well. I mean, literally, they're uncharted planes, or at least unlabeled planes, and they're just flying under the dead of the night, literally parking where there's no lights on the tarmac, where you have security guards coming up with body cam footage going, who are you guys? You have no tracking number. You're staying away from cameras, and you have literally the guy in front of them saying, yeah, we can't have cameras around. We didn't want to park under the lights because we don't want any news cameras to see what we're doing. It's amazing what the Biden administration has been doing and spinning and lying just blatantly about these illegal immigrants. I mean, if you recall, literally Kamala Harris looked at Chuck Todd of Meet the Press and was like, it's secure. The border's secure. She doubled down on it. Like a minute and a half apart from each other, she doubled down. Karine Jean-Pierre then with Peter Doocy doubled down as well. Even furthermore, she told Peter Doocy like a week before that they weren't walking across the border, that it wasn't happening. So the gaslighting is real. And you have Governor Ron DeSantis. We got a phenomenal clip here of calling out the hypocrisy from the Democrat Party, the hypocrisy from the progressive left, and the hypocrisy and the blatant lying from the Biden administration. You're going to love it, folks. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Yes.
Representative Jeffries, he said, and I'm quoting him, he said, you and Governor Abbott need to start acting like governors and stop acting like human traffickers. First, what is your response to that? And second, is there a second migrant flight going from Texas to Delaware?
So when Biden is flying these people all over the fruited plain in the middle of the night, I didn't hear a peep out of those people, okay? I didn't hear a peep. I haven't heard a peep.
Did anybody just see Ron DeSantis' movement here? I've seen this clip once. I didn't pick up on that movement, but that's a movement of you're about to get an ass kicking. Can we just watch that again? Watch his movement. Watch his little pep. And he's like, I'm just going to destroy you right now. Just watch this. Watch his little pep.
Flying these people all over the fruited plain in the middle of the night. I didn't hear a peep out of those people. Okay? I didn't hear a peep.
Right here, right here, right here.
I haven't heard a peep about all the people that have been told by Biden you can just come in, and they're being abused by the cartels. They're drowning in the Rio Grande. You had 50 that died in some shed in Texas. I heard no outrage about any of that. I haven't heard outrage about all the fentanyl that's come across the border that's killing Americans in record numbers. I don't hear outrage about the criminal aliens that have gotten through and have then victimized people, not only in Florida, but all throughout the country. I didn't hear any outrage about that. The only thing I hear them getting upset about is you have 50 that end up in Martha's Vineyard. Then they get really upset. And I'm sorry. Those migrants were being treated horribly by Biden. They were hungry, homeless. They had no opportunity at all. The state of Florida, it was volunteer, offered transport to sanctuary jurisdictions because it's our view that, one, the border should be secured. And we want to have Biden reinstitute policies like remain in Mexico and making sure that people aren't overwhelming. But short of that, if you believe in open borders, then it's the sanctuary jurisdictions that should have to bear the brunt of the open borders. So that's what we're doing. But what happened was they were provided an ability to be in the most posh sanctuary jurisdiction maybe in the world. And obviously it's sad that Martha's Vineyard people deported them the next day. They could have absorbed this. They chose not to. But what it shows is if 50 was a burden on one of the richest places in our country, what about all these other communities that have been overrun with hundreds or thousands? It shows you when now these policies are on the front burner. People need to be talking about. Biden can't defend his policies of open borders. It's doing huge damage to our country. It's costing a lot of money. It's costing lives with the drugs that are pouring across. And so the question is why are you supporting Biden's policies? Why don't you step up and tell him you're failing and let's do it differently? Because you know what? He inherited a border that wasn't like this. He has created the crisis. But now at least we know nobody can deny that there's a crisis. Everybody now knows, and it was only because you had to have the elite who want to have the cost on everybody else, and they don't want to have to shoulder that. That's the only reason now people are talking about this.
That's right. There's so many things that he touched on there that we could do an entire episode on, but it's true. You have massive fentanyl coming across. You have these illegal immigrants that are coming across and actually murdering Americans. They're raping Americans. They're doing all sorts of things. You have Venezuela emptying out prisons and sending their criminals to the southern border. You have terrorists coming across the border. Biden doesn't want to do anything. And remember under Jen Psaki when we first started the Bald Brad show and how we covered her saying, well, it's just a challenge. Not a big deal. There's 100,000 people coming across the border. And now everybody's calling it a crisis except the Biden administration. They still think it's just a challenge. And who they putting the blame on? They're putting the blame on Trump, which is so freaking mind-blowing because you didn't have these kind of numbers under Trump. No American president has had these kind of numbers. And people go, Brad, you're being exaggerating the data. You're being foolish. You're being silly. You're just not making sense anymore, man. That is literally a true data point. There is no president ever in American history that has allowed this many illegal immigrants into the country. There's over 2.1 million. We've finally broken the 2 million mark in 1 year. It's never happened before. And we still have more months to go. We're looking at roughly 2.5, and those are the ones we know about. It's well over 3 million people, you guys, in 1 year. We know there's well over 800,000 gotaways. Well over that. So this whole thing he's created is mind-blowing. And like Ron DeSantis said, you send them 50 illegal immigrants, 50 people, they can't even handle it. And it's one of the most wealthiest places in all of America. But yet you're making these poor counties, these poor localities on the southern end of the border have to deal with all this. To put in perspective, the dispatchers, the first responders, they don't know what to do at the southern border because there's so many 911 calls coming through. The 911 calls are literally gridlocking. They're jammed. People can't get the assistance they need because of everything that's going on at the southern border. Think about that. Think about that. You're trying to help your loved one and you can't even get through to a 911 call because it's gridlocked because of all the illegal immigrants that Joe Biden's allowing through, of which is a freaking function that you're supposed to be allowed to use because your tax dollars are paying for it, and you can't even utilize it because of a problem of which illegal immigrants are coming through, shellacking the system and infrastructure at the southern border. And so he says 50 there, and people are just outraged. The left are just outraged. How could you do it? How could you do it, Ron? You're sending them to a sanctuary city. Oh my God, how could you do that? And you're not going to give them notice, Ron? Isn't that freaking mind-blowing that you have Democrats and progressive left that have been touting for decades, 20 plus years, being sanctuary cities, right to shelter, and you send them a few thousand, in this case 50, they can't take care of them, you guys. Just try to fathom that for a moment. And they're going to blame Republicans for all this. I mean, it is so freaking head spinning. And it's not like I'm talking about this without having thought about it, right? I come on the show going, okay, spent some time thinking about it. Hell, for illegal immigration, which is one of my top priorities other than the freaking national debts, it's over $30.1 trillion. Don't even get me started on that one. These are major issues for me. And I can't, for the love of God, wrap my head around the Democrat Party, their handling of illegal immigration, and why they think it's okay. The only thing that makes sense to me so far is the progressive left have no morality. And people go, whoa, that's crazy, man. No. If you look at the progressive left, not necessarily the Democrat Party, they could be involved in that in some way, shape, or form as well, but the progressive left does not have any morality built into their thinking as well as their decision-making process. Who does a fabulous job of demonstrating this is Dennis Prager of PragerU, does a phenomenal talking point regarding the lack of morality from the progressive left. But when it comes to hounding the Republicans, all of a sudden they put themselves on a moral high ground above the rest of us in terms of their policies, but their policies do nothing but destroy this country from the inside out, i.e. illegal immigration. That's just one of many examples coming from the progressive left. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.